How are you?
Good. It's nice to virtually meet you. I'm Noha. I'm Rob's wife.
I'm
Nice.
Kathy.
Kathy, it's nice to meet you. So the podcast that I'm doing, it's called Fire Wives. And the idea kind of came about, my husband was listening to a podcast and he heard this woman who was a fire spouse that had unfortunately lost her husband. And she had a really beautiful story. She kind of used that to her advantage and went and made sure that all the firefighters, it was kind of in the 80s, I think, all the firefighters in Chicago ended up with bunker gear, which they didn't have already. So she kind of did something great out of a horrible story. So he was like, why don't you do something like this? And so kind of started this. I don't really have such a good story, but it's just been really nice to talk to people. So I appreciate your time.
That sounds great.
Thank you. I know we were supposed to meet with Brenda also, but Brenda mentioned to me that, she thought it might be a different experience for you. So we would just kind of have a separate conversation. I hope that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Awesome.
Totally.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about yourself.
About me, myself, or
Yeah.
So right now we're both retired and we're actually in Florida, as you know, and we're snowbirds. So we do January, February, March, April here, and then we do the rest of the time. But we also have a place on the Cape. So we're actually what I refer to, Michael doesn't, but I do, we're trailer trash for the Cape.
Oh, no. Why would you call yourself that?
Because we're in a trailer park.
Okay.
And it's wonderful. I tease, but it's wonderful. We love it there. We have a bunch of friends. So we're not in Natick as much anymore, but we just built a house in Natick. Our life has been complicated since we both retired. So we sold our house that we used to have and we bought his childhood home, which was right next door, and tore down an old house and built a new one.
Wow.
It's been crazy, crazy, crazy since we both retired. But I worked in Boston I was full time. I never was a stay home mom. I wish I was, but I wasn't. And I was an IT director in Boston for a law firm for about 20 years. I think I worked in Boston. So I took the train in every day. We had this ritual where he would drop me off at the train and I would get up at work, take the train home, walk to the fire station, take the car because he didn't need the car. And then I would go home, get the kids and do all that. And then in the morning, I would take the car back to the fire station, drop it off, walk to the train, and he'd get in the car and go home.
Wow.
So it worked out perfect for a while.
That's really funny. So you just had the one car then?
No, well, he had his truck. So, but during the week, he wouldn't take his truck. We would do my car. So, and at that time, it was, well, still today, he just did 2 days, so it was only 2 days out of the week he was taking the car. So, but
Right.
yeah.
Right. Did he have a separate job outside of the fire department?
For a long, long time, when we first were married, he was an auto body guy. He did auto body. And then he really started dabbling into construction. And so then he just became like a repairman, construction, decks, and little stuff. He didn't build houses till later, but for the longest time, I say a third of his career, he was at the auto body shop. So while the kids were young, he went directly from high school into auto body. And he was late getting on the fire department. I think he was 29 or something like that. A lot of them get on early.
Yeah. Doesn't sound late, but it is for the fire department. Yeah,
exactly. Especially back then. So, and the reason I say back then is because now a lot of them might do college or might do an a paramedic course, whereas they didn't do any of that back then,
right.
So they got on early. But my dad was a firefighter in Natick.
Oh, really? Did they work at the same time?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was that like?
Just for a few years. It was good. It was funny because my whole world my whole world was firefighter, right? I mean, oh God, I I don't think I ever missed a firefighter Sunday until, I think I missed the last couple he went, but I didn't. But yeah, I mean, because my whole world was firefighters. My parents' friends were firefighters. Our friends were firefighters. I mean, we used to go to Christmas parties with my parents.
Wow.
So, but that was fun because then my dad was able, every promotion he got, my dad was able to do the pinning of whatever. It was nice.
Oh,
It was,
that's so sweet.
yeah, yeah,
Wow, that's
yeah,
really nice.
yeah.
Now,
So
how did you two meet?
Michael and I went to school together. We started dating. We started dating in the ninth grade, I think. So yeah, yeah.
So really, it's been your whole life.
Yeah, so there was a period, I call it my hiatus. We dated from ninth grade to probably a year after high school. And then we broke up. I went off and got married
Oh, no
and had a
kidding.
baby. Yeah. And that was a disaster. And it turns out a very long story, but it was only a 5-year period between us breaking up and us getting back together.
Mhm.
And then And at that time, Michael was not on the fire department. And my ex husband never was in my son's life. So Michael ended up adopting him. And then we had another boy. So we have two boys.
Wow.
But yeah, yeah. So we went to school together.
Okay.
And then I can't remember, my dad maybe kept saying, because Michael kept saying he didn't want to do auto body. And I think it was my dad that was like, take the test, get on the fire department. And Michael was like, oh, I don't know if I can do that. There's a lot of downtime. I was like, go for it. I mean, but then he did finally get on, and it's kind of different having your dad be gone nights. It's like, Dad, see you later.
Right.
But when it's your husband, it's like, oh crap, he's gone. So, but yeah, so
Wow.
that's kind of like our story.
Yeah, that's really nice. I didn't know that you knew each other that young or any of that. That's great.
We started in Kennedy Junior High.
Wow. And did you go to college?
Oh, I did not.
You did not. So how did you get started with your position?
I worked at the time, there was a company called Digital Equipment Corporation in Maynard, and I worked there right out of high school. And I just started getting into computers and everything. And I worked for them for about 15 years. And they started to go under. They started to have problems. So I took the buyout. And right away, I got a job at a law firm in Boston, a medium-sized law firm in Boston, as their network manager. And then I worked my way up to the IT director there. And I ended up, at the end, I ended up leaving, which I never should have done, but I ended up leaving there. I had to work. I was traveling to London, DC, New York. We had offices all over the place. And they were expanding into Paris, and they were expanding into California. Look, I had a career, but I wasn't a career person. I had a career because I was making good money. And but I really was a working mom.
Mm.
I didn't I wasn't that, and there's nothing wrong with having a career and being that person. That wasn't me.
Right.
I was just doing what I was doing because I was making good money and I couldn't walk away. And so I wanted to dub down. So I went and took a job with another law firm, a smaller law firm. And that was a disaster. They didn't like me. I didn't like them. It only lasted like 6 or 8 weeks, and I left. And they said goodbye. So it was kind of like a mutual thing. And so I took a year off. Mm-hmm. And then I got the town in Natick had a communications officer. And that was like a perfect semi-retirement for me There wasn't a lot of stress. I wasn't working tons of hours. It was just 9 to 5, and it was a fun job, and I loved it actually. So I stayed there until we retired. So
That's great. Did you retire at the same time?
yeah, because he was not retiring before me. No way.
No way.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
He
great.
retired. Actually, I retired before him. I
Nice.
retired, I think, in March, and I think we retired both at the same time, but he stayed a little longer because they didn't have a chief yet. So they were start doing the search.
Yeah.
So stayed a couple months longer than even though he was retired, I think he was contract. So we both retired at the same time, but he worked just a couple months longer than me.
Right.
It was funny though, because I retired and I was so scared because I had worked since I was, you know, young. So I was so scared. I got a job at our trailer park down the Cape for the summer and check people in. When I worked at the law firm, years I used to tease Michael, saying, Mike, when I grow up, my biggest responsibility was going to be working at Roach Brothers, asking if it was plastic or paper. So the trailer park, checking people in and out at, the transients, and that was perfect. So I'm still there.
Oh,
I,
really?
yeah, yeah, I love it.
That's
It's
great.
crazy. I love it. I only work like 2 or 3 days a week, and I work in the office, and I book bands, and I make golf tournaments, and yeah, it's fun. It's
That's
fun.
great. Wow. Not what I would have expected. I guess I would have thought you would be happy to just kind of be done.
I no, I think I just couldn't. I, ugh, I had a hard time letting go altogether. I just wanted to do something. But I will say probably in the last few months, I'm like, do I really want to go back? I mean, I'll go back for another year because I told them, but it might be my last. We'll see. We have grandchildren now. So
Nice. Oh, congratulations. How many grandkids do you have?
we have three. We have, a 7-year-old. She's turning 7 in a couple weeks. And we have two twins, 3 years old. They just turned 3. So yeah,
That's
they're
great.
our world.
Yeah.
They're our world.
Yeah. You must miss them while you're in Florida.
Very much. Very much. We have this, Alexis has this, it's called The Show. And I don't know if you remember the commercials. The daughter's cooking a supper, and her dad's on the show, and her dad's helping her cook, because the show is like an iPad.
Okay.
And it moves as you talk. If you move over here, it will follow you. So we have that.
Yeah. I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. And we have that, and the kids can drop in on us anytime we want, or they want. So yeah.
That's really cute.
Yeah, so like our granddaughter, she lost her tooth last week, and she dropped in to show us that she had no tooth, and so yeah.
It's a nice way to stay connected. That's really great.
Yeah.
Do you find it's hard for you to disconnect from technology, having been in IT for so long?
At first it did. Now no, because technology changes so fast that there's so much I don't know anymore. But I will say what happens is I don't think I'm afraid of it as much as other people are. So somebody will be having a problem, and I'll kind of be like, well, give me a minute. Let me see if I can figure it out. And then I'll go from there. So I guess what I've learned in the technology world is I'm a great troubleshooter, but I might not know the technology anymore. But I can usually figure out a way around it. So, but yeah.
That's great. I kind of always thought of myself as somebody who was, medium tech savvy, having grown up needing to use computers and whatnot. I'm really not. It's really kind of embarrassing. I'll be at work and something will happen with my computer. I'm like, I don't know. Like, I got to call somebody. I have no idea. So I think, if you're not somebody who stays up to date with stuff like that, it's really easy to fall to the wayside.
It does.
Yeah.
It goes fast. And now there's things out there that you just, because you're not in that world anymore, you don't even know what's out there, never mind how it's changed.
Yeah.
So,
I'm
but
curious to
it's,
hear your thoughts on the whole AI thing then. What do you think?
well, that's kind of scary, but
Isn't it?
with the older you get, and I've been saying this a lot to people, the older you get, the more frightened is not probably the right word, but you get more anxious about things. And it's really weird because I used to think, my grandmother, it's like, it's okay, don't worry about it, it's okay. But it is true. The older you get, the more anxious you are. So change, I guess that's why old people probably don't like change, right? So the AI is scary. So you try to dumb it down and think, but it could be so good because I don't know. I think for me, I'm still judgmental about it, but I'm not closed mind about it.
Right. That's a good way
So
to think about it. Yeah.
yeah,
I guess the part that kind of throws me off a little bit, we have young kids, and I don't think they're going to know what to believe, or maybe they'll know better than I do.
that's the scary part,
Yeah.
right? Social media and AI. That's like, because we had neither one when we were growing up.
Yeah.
I can't say that there was tons of rumors, people start rumors all the time. Now it just starts on their own. Like it doesn't take word of mouth anymore. It just takes a picture.
Yeah. And you don't even know if that picture is real or not. And I have trouble telling the difference.
Yeah, I don't even know, you know, just to the raw picture. I don't even know if you could,
Yeah.
so it is. That part's really scary.
Yeah.
But I try to look at the other parts, I mean, crazy, stupid stuff like, AI will help you pick out your outfit. I mean, that kind of thing is kind of cool when you kind of think about it. So that's the part I have an open mind with. But the other stuff's really scary, really scary. But times right now are very scary. So
That's a very valid point.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So, kind of coming back to the whole fire piece, tell me what it felt like for you. What did it mean to you? Tell me your favorite part, your least favorite part. What was it like, especially knowing that your dad was also a firefighter? So, really, you didn't know anything different.
No, so it wasn't, yeah, my world just stayed the same. It was a little bit different only because it was my husband and not my father.
Mhm.
I don't, we had a scanner in the house. My dad never had a scanner. My mom would never do that. I had friends that their dad had a scanner, but we had a scanner. And matter of fact, I think it was one of my Christmas presents.
Funny.
Uh, but I didn't. You. It was funny because I never paid attention to that scanner. People would come in and be like, "What is that noise?" And I'd be like, "What noise?" And
You forgot it was there.
yeah, until he worked.
Hmm.
And when he worked, I paid attention to that subconsciously. The bell would go off, and I'd be like, "Hmm," you know. And it was weird that I would. It was automatic. Like I wouldn't even listen to it, and then that bell would go off, and I would be like, "Oh, he's there." So, but I mean, I was never nervous. The only time I was nervous, that's not true. The only time I was nervous, I really got tripped up with the Worcester fire.
Yeah.
That was a tough time. That was a really tough time because that was something that our guys could get into. I mean, if you think about 9/11, which is terrible, 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 but the odds of that happening in Natick were
Yeah.
very nil. The odds of the Worcester fire was huge, huge. So I probably think that was probably my worst time for my whole life. I think that was probably my worst time. Plus, it was Christmas time. I think it was like a couple days before our Christmas party. And so everybody was talking about it at the Christmas party. Everybody was feeling it wasn't the best, you know.
Yeah.
It was a tough year. It was a tough year. Yeah, it was a tough year. So that was probably my worst time. The best times I think were just I left my drive-by kisses. I used to have to go. I could go for drive-by kisses, or I would get a sub, and I'd get him a sub, me a sub, and I'd pull into the apparatus floor because I used to. He used to refer to it as the apparatus floor, and I would laugh at him because it's like, who uses that?
Right.
So I would pull in. He would open the doors. I would pull in, and we would have dinner, or we would have a sub, or maybe he ate dinner with the guys, and he would just
sit with you.
Yeah, yeah. So I did love that. I really loved
That is
that.
so sweet. That just like maybe that's so sweet. That got to me.
I
Wow.
really that. There was a point where Michael made captain, I think, and he had to go into the office. He actually went into the office twice when he maybe I think, but I loved the office because it was 9 to 5.
Right.
It was Monday through Friday. It was like, oh, I love this. He hated it.
Was this because of injuries or something like that?
No, I think at the time you had the lowest captain had to do fire prevention.
Oh. I think they
And
still have it. Yeah. Like the
somebody,
training captain.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
I don't know if the lieutenant ever had to go into the office, but anyways, I just remember the captain one, and I used to be like, oh, this is great.
This is what normal people feel like.
He hated it. Hated it.
I bet.
So I guess that was my other high point is when he was in the office.
Yeah.
When he took chief, he really didn't want to do the chief thing, but for
Really?
pension retirement reasons, he did it. Yeah, he loved being a deputy. He loved being a deputy. It was kind of for him, it was the best of both worlds.
Okay.
He got to run the fire and he got to be that guy, but he didn't have to do any of the political, which was not that bad. Mostly it was the personnel issues and stuff like that he didn't like as chief. But he did it for his pension. But I loved the chief thing because it was nice.
Yeah, from the spouse point of view, it's very different. So you enjoyed him being chief. Do you feel like that changed you or changed him or your social interactions with people? How did that affect you guys?
Him being chief?
Yeah.
Oh, God, our whole world changed. The only good thing was all our friends had retired by then because we were the younger of them all. Well, all of them? Yeah, maybe a couple weren't, but the ones we really hung out with had. Because some of them, like the Tommy Franchos of the world, who I mean, Rocky and Rocky and Brenda and Karen and Tommy. I mean, we were all that shift close because Tommy had started so early on the department. He retired early,
right?
So most of our friends were retired because we lost all our friends, the one, and it wasn't their fault. We never, you don't get invited to the parties anymore when you're chief. You know what I mean? You don't get invited to pretty much anything anymore, which for us, it was fine because we had the retirement world, you know? So for us, it was fine. But I think if he had gotten chief earlier, it would have been devastating for us. So the timing was perfect.
Yeah. And how long was he chief for?
Just for 4 years, I think. I think it was 4 years.
Yeah.
So
did he talk to you about it?
Yeah, he didn't have a lot of crap happened when he was chief.
Yeah.
A lot of personnel. I mean, he had a huge building fire,
I think I remember that one. That was a big one.
That was a huge one. And he had an attempted suicide. They used to tease him that they had never seen a chief deal with so much crap. So, yeah, so it was amazing. His blood pressure went down and his health got so much better when he retired.
Yeah, it's that Florida air.
Yeah, yeah. So, but yeah, the chief was, I mean, as much as it worked for the pension, was it worth it? Yeah, but it was tough. It was tough. It was tough on him.
Yeah.
It was tough. He loved the guys, so.
Of course.
But, yeah, so, but.
Do you feel like your marriage was different while he was, say, in the office versus on shift?
No, we had agreed. So there were some firefighters that worked whatever hours they could get because they, overtime, it was very hard for people to pass up overtime. I worked. I had a good job. So we made a deal. I'm not saying, I think probably he was there 32 years, probably the first 7 to 10 years, he took everything. And then it got to a point where I worked, he worked. It was just too much. It was just too much. And our marriage was suffering tremendously. And so we made a deal that he would work any overtime during the week. It just, he could take it. Any Friday or Saturday nights we had to talk about. And most of the time he would turn them down unless we truly weren't doing anything. We also found and it's hard. Communication probably is the worst thing ever, right? For any couple, no matter what they do or what their career is. But because there's so much single life in a firefighter wife, you got to communicate. Like, you have got to communicate. So we had many conversations of, hey, I'm not happy. So,
yeah.
And it was just stupid stuff. A lot of it was just talking it through, being insecure or he's wanting more time because I work. So, yeah. There was a lot of that.
It's nice to talk about it, even if you're not saying, hey, this is the end, right? But just explaining right now, this doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
That's really good advice.
I don't think for us, any of our talks ever included the end. And it was maybe because I had been in a bad relationship, So that was like, I had already known I didn't want to do that again, So, and I went through a annulment for my first marriage, and it took me 5 years to write it. It was emotional, but I talked to him about it a lot, so that probably helped in our communication because I just needed to talk about so much with him writing things down is like screaming at you sometimes. So before my paper was sopping wet from tears, I would talk to him about it so that I could put my thoughts together and write it down. So I don't know if that helped our communication. He didn't leave me.
You're doing well now. That's good. Do you feel like that made him think you were comparing him to your previous marriage?
No.
Okay.
No.
Good.
Yeah. My previous, he was verbally abusive and an alcoholic.
I'm so sorry.
No, that's okay.
Yeah.
You know what? It was me being naive and stupid, and I learned so much from that short. Michael and I have been married for 40 years now, so that doesn't even, yeah.
Feels insignificant now, but it was, I don't know anything about the situation, but I'm sure it was not your fault.
Yeah. It was tough. It was tough.
I bet.
But
I bet.
but we got through it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You definitely need to talk. Talk, talk, talk.
Yeah.
More than probably anybody. So
Yeah. I normally ask, what advice do you have? But I think that's probably
yeah.
one of the best pieces of advice I've heard so far. I think
Yeah.
if we don't tell them how we feel, how are they going to know?
How do you I mean, how not it's I'm just curious. And somebody that just came into the firefighter world, how do you feel? Do you feel I always wanted to know this. Do you feel so for me, because I knew all the firefighters throughout the generations, I never felt like I was in the outside coming in because it went from my parents to my parents' friends. And then, you get a mix of the old and the new in the firefighter world. So it just everything kind of evolved. So I never felt like I was coming in. And I used to think, I remember we went to one Christmas party, and I don't know if it was Chris Mix's wife, Melissa. I don't know. But we were all standing around, and the shift was going to have a Christmas party, and they wanted to change it up or something, and they wanted to do like a Yankee swap, right? And and I remember standing there. I think it was Melissa. I remember standing there, and she went. The look on her face was like, "Oh my god!" Like she knows nobody. How do you have a Yankee swap,
Yeah.
knowing nobody? And I'm like, oh my god, people, we're not doing that. We're not putting this poor girl in that position. We're
Yeah.
not. They're like, what? And like, no, we're not doing that. Let's just everybody get a gift and whatever, or no gifts, or I can't remember what we ended up doing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was crazy.
It's very thoughtful of you to notice that. I don't think I've ever felt that way though. I think I think 21 when he got on. So I was already pretty young. So was he. I think everybody was incredible. Everybody was super welcoming. And he was super close, is still super close with Tommy Forens. You mentioned Tommy and Karen, and I spoke with Karen.
Yes, she loves you.
Oh, she's the greatest. And I think everybody was really welcoming. I'm sure for somebody, maybe this is not me tooting my own horn, but like I am social. I tend to talk a little too much if you ask me, but it's easier for me to talk to people. So maybe somebody who's not, maybe not
Right.
so much. But out of me and Robbie, I'm the more social one. So like I'll bring him into a conversation, So for me, it was always nice. I think now it's gotten harder now. What I'm realizing is we did so much more when we quote unquote got on, but now we have young kids and they're wonderful, but it's just harder and we don't live in Natick. So it's not easy to just like have a babysitter for an hour, or something like that. But
right.
but I never felt that way. Yeah. And he was grandfathered in for the distance of how far you can be. I don't know now what the deal is.
Yeah.
But it kind of goes back to the overtime thing, or if you're away or something, I guess. I forget what it was about, but if you're too far, you can't take the overtime.
Yeah.
But
yes.
It's 45 minutes is okay. We can manage,
Yeah.
Like you said, you go in one day and you leave the next, so it's fine.
Right. That's exactly right. I mean, my God, I used to travel to Digital in Maynard from Natick, which is an hour away or 45 minutes away. So
yeah,
that,
yeah. But you are the first person I've talked to who almost I feel like I'm in a similar position. Like I also have a good job, so the overtime thing is sometimes. I don't want to say we don't need it, right? It's not. I'm not rolling in the dough, but
no, I get it.
But when it's, an overtime pay versus, 1 or 2 nights a week at home, sometimes it may be not worth it in a way, I guess.
Yeah, that was our biggest. Once we got over that was really one of our biggest things because I only had Friday and Saturday nights. Right? Because you work. And yeah, that was a huge thing for me. I will say what I used to do is I can be kind of crazy.
I
So
love this.
Michael would come home, I would get the boys involved, and we would plan game night for Daddy when he got home.
Okay.
And I would ask our best friends over, and Michael would come in, and it would be like, surprise. He probably wanted to kill me half the time. But it was always like, pour him a drink, get him calm down, and we're going to
Yeah.
have family night,
That's
you know?
great. Yeah.
Oh, and that was our way of not spending a lot of money and still being, and it usually I tried to include, but we lived in Natick, so my youngest went to school with some of the
Mm-hmm.
kids, whether it was the Alberginis or the Florences or something, they used to, come over. So, but yeah, that was kind of, me being crazy, stupid, but
I
yeah,
don't think so, but I wonder if that was before he was on 24-hour shifts.
that was when we did 2 and 2.
Yeah. What do
And
you think? What was better?
so the 24 hours opened up more of his weekends. He wasn't, because if it was 2 and 2, he could either work both Saturday and Sunday, or he would be Saturday day, Sunday night, So, what's really weird? When I was younger, my parents, we used to have it, I'm old. So
No.
my mom used to have Sunday dinners.
Uh-huh.
That's what we did. My dad was a meat and potato guy. And we would have to take my dad the Sunday dinner every single Sunday that he worked. And we would put it in a pie plate, and somebody would run it down. If I was driving, or if I wasn't driving, my mom would drive and I'd run it in.
That's really nice.
Fire department. And of course, that never happens anymore, right? They
Mm-mm.
all pitch in and they cook. But
Oh, wow. They didn't cook together then?
not like they do now.
No kidding. Oh, wow. All I hear about is how, so and so is a great cook and this and that. I have so much competition at the firehouse.
No kidding. No kidding. Or Michael would be like, he thought he was this wonderful cook because he could cook one meal.
Did he ever do it at home?
After a while, I think I made him start cooking. So, yeah, yeah.
That's funny. Wow, that's really nice though. We stopped by the firehouse yesterday just because we were in the area, and I will make an effort to be in the area so we can stop by. But it's definitely tricky because if I'm driving that far and he's on a call and I have 2 little kids, I'm not going to sit there for an hour and hope he comes back, So it makes it a little harder. But it's still, we enjoy it, and it's still really fun. We have a 4-year-old and she loves watching him slide down the pole. So she's still at that age where it's really exciting to see the fire trucks. So
I bet.
Yeah.
I bet. We could actually go down the pole when we were younger.
I said I was going to yesterday, and he's like, "No, you're not. You're not allowed." I'm like, "Oh, come on. I don't work here. I can do what I want."
For firefighter Sundays when I was young, they used to walk from downtown to the 2 cemeteries down on Pont Street, and they used to go to one cemetery, cross the street, go the other, and walk back. And so they walked in formation all the way down, which is what, a mile, 2 miles, I don't know. And then we would all gather at one of the grave sites in each cemetery. And on the way back, the kids could join in the walk.
Cool.
So we used to walk back, and this was when it was at the old fire station. Tecan is now there. So they would have coffee and donuts. They would get the local donut shop because Dunkin' Donuts wasn't a thing then, I don't think. And they would have coffee and donuts. And all the kids did was line up at the pole, and we would just ride the pole
Oh my
down.
gosh.
Stairs, ride the pole down, walk the stairs, ride the pole down. So it was kind of disappointing when they stopped. I don't know when that happened. It must have been when I was, older and
Yeah, I bet somebody got hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
but that's fun.
That's really great.
Totally get it, wanting to go down that pole.
It seems so fun. Maybe one day, maybe they'll change the rules again. I don't know. Honestly, I probably shouldn't. I am the clumsiest person ever, so.
No, I don't think there's any more clumsy than Brenda.
Brenda Franchos, really? Do you like living close to her?
Yes.
Yeah. You guys must be very close.
Very, very.
That's great.
Yeah.
She kind of was joking that when they moved out to Florida, they kind of followed you there. And she was like, can we also join? So it's kind of nice that it worked out that way.
It was nice that because they had rented. So Michael's parents lived in this neighborhood. His sister bought the house. She passed away, left it to his parents. His parents were snowbirds for a while. And then because we all worked, his sisters worked and we worked, they would rent the house. And they stopped renting it. The sisters bought it and we ended up buying 5 doors down. But Rocky and Brenda used to rent the house. And I didn't help her because I'm like, oh, this for sale, oh, this for sale, oh, this for sale. Get down here. Look at this. It's for sale.
That's great. We're waiting for you. That's awesome. Nice. Do you think you would ever stay there the whole year?
Probably. I don't think I could leave my grandchildren. When I say they're our life, they're our life. We have this tiny trailer. It's not tiny, but it's nice on the Cape. We have a private beach.
Oh, wow.
I'll take a picture of it. It's really nice.
That's beautiful.
And I've been going down there since I was 16, 15. And we raised our 2 boys there. And it was a place where we could go on the weekend, be on the beach, and they would have their friends and they would get on their bikes and go, and they would have their summer friends. It was perfect. It was perfect. But I'll send you a picture of it because it's really cool.
That would be lovely.
Look, it's not for everybody. Yeah. I know that. And it's not. Who cares?
I'd like to see it. That sounds great. We love the Cape. It's unfortunately, I'm not sure we're ever going to be able to manage even a trailer park in the Cape. It's wild, but it would be lovely to one day be able to kind of, I don't know, it's close by. We love the beach, but
it's 2 hours away. Yeah. You have your own beach and you just leave your stuff there. You don't bring it in and out or anything, but it can be expensive. But yeah, it never used to be expensive, but now it is. So, yeah. But yeah.
Yeah, anything in the Cape, honestly, even Natick. It's crazy. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Crazy. Yeah.
Well, any funny stories, any kind of funny last things that you would want to share?
I don't think so. Michael lost his shoes once.
At the fire department?
Yeah, right. When he first got on, he came home with no shoes. Like, how do you do that? He was on the back of the truck, and I don't think they're, at the time, you know how they sit behind? Well, at the time, I don't know if they still do. At the time, the officer and the driver, and then like the officer and the driver, and then there was the third one in the back was face back, but there was no door. So he was taking his shoes off to put on his boots.
And it just flew off. Oh my gosh. I don't know if that's how they sit now, but I think they change before they get on the truck.
Yeah, but they have their boots right there. Right?
Yeah. That's a pretty funny story. Was he much of a prankster? No.
Okay. Florence was, but no.
Really?
No.
Yeah.
Wasn't. I think if the guys were doing it, he would do it, mm-hmm. But he would never think to do it. He didn't have, I think he would do it just to, with the other guys, but he would never come up with the idea.
Right.
But yeah, he's not that funny.
So you think of yourself as the funnier of the two. I think you're pretty funny.
Boring.
I think we're the opposite. I'm the more social one, but Robbie is honestly hysterical, sometimes a little inappropriate. But yeah, I definitely I enjoy the jokes, but I don't have the ideas for it.
Right.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I appreciate your time. Anything else you want to share?
No, I think this was great.
This was great. It was so nice to meet you virtually. It's so nice to talk to you. Hopefully we get to meet in person one time. I've been talking to a lot of people, and I'm building up the motivation to starting a party because I think that's what we're missing right now, to restarting like something annual that's big.
Yeah.
I'm thinking summer might be better because the
Yeah.
holiday season is tough, but if you guys are here in the summer,
Yeah.
you'll be the first on the list.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time.
You too.
All
You
right.
take care.
Thanks, you too. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed being here as much as I did. If you have any questions for me, or if you'd like to be interviewed, please reach out at thefirewivespodcast@gmail.com. You can also follow me on Instagram and Facebook. Tune in next week for the next episode of Firewives.